Greetings, YouTube. Today I'm going to talk about the movie Tombstone with Kurt Russell, Val Kilmer, Bill Paxton, Sam Elliott, and I'm blanking on one of the other main actors who's listed in the show notes below. This is a wonderful Western. Well, not necessarily in my, say, top 10. I think it has a wonderfully authentic feel. And I think one of the reasons is the language, the slang, the terminology used. It just really, for me, set it in place. And I hadn't seen this movie in, I don't know how long, years, maybe more than a decade. When I watched it recently with my wife, and I don't know if she'd ever seen it. And for me, the two best parts of this film were Kurt Russell and Val Kilmer. Both of them really were just shining in this film. They conveyed to me a casual acceptance of their characters. It's like they just slipped into that skin and they just wore it, brought it right there onto the screen. My wife didn't like Kurt Russell's mustache, just kind of big thing he wears, but I loved it. I thought it was very, very period, very well done, and very appropriate for the character. Then Val Kilmer, playing a sufferer of TB, had this frail grace about him. In fact, I think at times he almost appeared elfin in nature when he was on screen. But all the while playing this southern gentleman in a rough and tumble world, and he was just as rough and tumble as everyone else, even though he may have had a good deal more grace and panache about it. But more than willing to draw very fast and make sure that people who bothered him ended up very dead. Billy Bob Thornton plays a minor character which has a run-in with Wyatt Earp, played by Kurt Russell, which was very memorable. Very much you seeing Wyatt Earp just staring someone down, unarmed. It was wonderful. And then Val Kilmer just dismissing someone out of hand, as though you have nothing to do here. You are insignificant. Why don't you just go away? It was very powerful, because you really saw the different levels of these people. That these were gunslingers, and Billy Bob Thornton's character was just a blowhard with a gun. There's a big difference there. Now, I have actually no idea how historically accurate the actual history in here, the Earps and their goings on. I don't know if they nailed it or not, but I know that they were involved in the gambling business. I know that they were entrepreneurs in their own light. I know that they were friends with Doc Holliday, played by Val Kilmer. And they did have a run-in with the gang known as the Cowboys. So there were historical elements that they were, brought right there into the film, and were quite enjoyable. I think it's a delightful Western. It was quite entertaining. I don't think that there were many moments that weren't watchable. It was a smidge slow at some points in the film. My wife pointed that out, saying she thought the pacing was a little off. I'm thinking you probably could have tightened it up just a bit. Maybe 10 minutes would have, a little bit of editing would have made the pacing just a little bit better. But everyone has their own editing choices. Sometimes you get it right, sometimes you don't. This particular version I didn't realize it didn't have a commentary track. So I might actually like to see if I can find one someday. I'd like to hear what the director has to say about his choices for the pacing of the film. Were there some real decision making behind it, or was it just he was trying to hit certain historical points and that's the way he did it? There was some nice blocking, however, some really nice, like a couple of shots like through doorways that really almost framed the characters like pictures, which I thought was really very well done. But overall, an enjoyable Western, one that I recommend to anyone who enjoys somewhat realistic portrayals of that time, of that era, and a nice appearance, decent writing, and again, Kurt Russell and Val Kilmer really at their best as characters in a Western.